So, this is a lesson that's exciting because you will learn the benefits of doing all of the work that you've been doing and how it starts to show up as healing. So, I want you to recognize you've come a long way, and I don't want you to look back. So, here's the reason I say that is because this is the stage where lots of survivors can think that they aren't moving forward, to think that they're not healing, because after the fear is gone from the trauma responses, other feelings often come up. I want you to know that that's completely normal. And in this video, I'm going to help you understand how the healing progresses after your trauma response is healed, because you're not done once you've healed a trauma response. So, the thing I want you to know is that traditional psychotherapy, really before the current processes, including things like EMDR, came on scene, sought something called catharsis. It was essentially based on the belief that if a therapist could get you to talk about your trauma and get you to tell the story and get you into a big emotional response that you could cry out, that healing would automatically happen. And you and I both know that this only leads to more trauma triggers, not healing. It prolongs therapy, it makes things much more painful. I looked up the definition of catharsis, and it is the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. I'll tell you, my definition of this catharsis is very different from this. Although it happens in a natural process, it doesn't have to happen artificially by getting you to talk about something that's harmful or painful to you. So let's talk about my definition. My thought is that your feelings that are held in your body history, those are the things that keep the trauma responses in place in your body. Now, to this point in time, you have worked very hard to recognize your trauma responses and to heal them using the trauma erase method. Well, once a triggered response is healed, the energy in your body, the emotional energy holding that in place, isn't needed to hold it in place anymore because there's nothing to hold there. So when that happens, that's when the natural catharsis occurs because there's nothing for that emotion to do. No holding of trauma responses. So the relief itself, unlike catharsis in typical psychotherapy settings, the talk therapy settings, the release itself brings relief. It feels good. So it can be a really big cry, but when it's a true catharsis, that cry is often really short. When I say short, I think the first time that I had the real true catharsis after working these steps, uh, the cries have always been less than a minute, maybe a minute long, 2 minutes long, very, very short. And it's a big cry, but it ends as quickly as it starts. It could also be laughter, coughing, a big sigh, tremors in your body. It's somehow that your body is releasing this emotional energy, and it can be experienced in different ways by different people. I remember my first experience, it felt like bubbles of emotion just coming up and cried. And just as quickly as those bubbles came and passed here on the screen, that's what it was. It came up, I cried, I knew what it was because the emotion, all of the feeling came with the description of the things that it was connected to. It sounds strange, but when your release is happening, you know exactly why. And it's because you've done this trauma release method work, trauma erase method work. So that's not where it ends, though. There are usually more feelings. So the follow-up feelings are the feelings about the trigger. So you might feel sadness which is really compassion about the things that your child self went through. It could be anger. It could be a sense of determination to never go through those experiences again, or to never repeat the patterns that you've been repeating while you've been in a trauma response that have kept you stuck. So determined to make your life different and to feel better instead of repeating old trauma patterns. Also could be feelings of loss. So there is an aspect of grief that comes up here, but it's grieving for the things that happen, and it's happening on behalf of yourself as a hurt child. It's really not about blaming the people who hurt you. Instead, it's you learning how to step up and protect the child inside of you that was never protected. This is what's often referred to as inner child work. And it's the beginning of compassion. So one of the things I often tell my clients is that you want to think about your inner child self being behind you, and you're doing all of the work that is required to set boundaries, to tell people no. So I often, for example, when I meet people who are dating and they are feeling very needy, their attachment style is they're either anxious or they're wanting to really connect with people. They want to feel, they have this sense of feeling this great big need for acceptance. That's usually leading with your inner child. And so I tell them to think about this image of, instead of this, like this picture shows, the child is behind this woman. It's not the child in front of the woman begging people to like her. It's the woman putting the child behind her and saying, "It's okay, I'll take care of it." Then even though the woman in this situation might want someone to approve of her, she's also thinking, what are the behaviors that I'm usually drawn to in a person that later hurts me? What is a boundary I need to set? Is this a person that's good and safe? That's adult function. And the child is now behind you in a protective way so that you can be the one making self-protective, self-nurturing, and self-compassionate choices that protect you in a healthy way, but really symbolically protect your inner child who's you have put behind you because you're going to protect them. The other thing to know is that when a trauma response is healed, it's like this. You have the current development, just like in the last slide that I talked about, the idea of trying to find love from a place of being hurt and wounded and getting our new partner to help us heal, or trying to find love from a place of self-respect and healthy self-protection and discernment. So current development would be leading with the inner child. Where you want to be would be learning how to be self-protective in a healthy way and be able to set boundaries and say no, and all of the things that we didn't learn while we were growing up in a harmful situation. So triggers strengthen that developmental gap. And when we're doing the work to heal the trauma and have all of these follow-up feelings show up, that's where this gap is getting closed. And now we'll be able to see the things that we were missing that we weren't able to see before because those unmet needs from our trauma history were driving our behaviors. Now we can say, oh, aha, I don't need to give away myself and stop having boundaries and put my own needs last to find love. That's what I've always done. That's why I've continued to be hurt. We can see that, and it's much more clear as we're making our choices in relationship, in any relationship, friendship, work relationships, romantic relationships moving forward. So when you recognize those gaps, you can fill them in because now you know what's missing and the trauma response doesn't stop you. So as part of the Trauma Erase Method and Trauma Free Nation, as part of the Trauma Erase Method Academy and Trauma Free Nation, I have promised the Skill Builder monthly newsletter, and I'm going to start sending those out to members and putting them in the groups this month. And you will start seeing them, and they will have exercises and journaling opportunities to help you see where your gaps are. When you see where your gaps are, that will also help you see what the trauma responses are that you're going to want to heal. As you heal those, you'll be able to identify where your gaps are and what to do next. So look for that. That's exciting. The next piece is your homework. Read your Skill Builder newsletter. Let yourself feel and work through the feelings that come up after you've healed a trauma response and recognize how far you've come. If you're still here and you're still doing this work, congratulations. You've grown a lot. You should be very, very proud of yourself. Give yourself a round of applause, and I'll see you in the next module.